Hi, everybody. Welcome back to PCS 101, and this is for our class for Tuesday, the 28th. And as you know, speech number one is coming up, but this class is devoted to talking about chapter 11, about delivering speeches, and also a quiz on some of the information that we've been talking about. And I wanted to give you a little bit of information about posting for speech number one as well. So I'll start with the chapter about delivering speeches. There are lots of different kinds of speeches that are out there, and this class is focusing on the extemporaneous speech, a speech that's prepared in advance and it is delivered with a speaking outline. You should not be delivering a speech without an outline. I do not deliver classes without an outline. Here is my outline, and you can see it by looking at the notes below. I just merely copied the notes below, so that's what's in front of me. Sometimes you might be in a situation where you give an impromptu speech, where you aren't given any kind of opportunity for prior preparation. It's spur of the moment. It could be something like an award ceremony, for instance, when you weren't anticipating winning an award. I suggest you keep it short and simple. Certainly, this is not the time in this class to give an impromptu speech. Even with speech number one, you might be thinking, well, I know the content well, it's my life. But certainly, you want to be able to plan and practice. There is such a thing as a manuscript speech where you read from a manuscript or a teleprompter. It might sound tempting, but you usually have to be very skilled to do that so that you don't necessarily sound artificial or monotone. And things can go wrong. So if you look at the notes below, I have a 1-minute video for you to see about a teleprompter fail. A very famous director was asked about his newest movie, and when the teleprompter failed, he was unable to continue and rushed off stage. Obviously, he knew the content of the material, it was his movie. He just panicked, which goes to show that even though you might have a manuscript or a teleprompter in front of you, that doesn't guarantee a foolproof performance. And there is such a thing as a memorized speech, and you might be tempted to do that for this class, and you should not. As the Toastmasters video also talked about, memorized speeches oftentimes sound monotone and memorized. That said, for brief and very formal affairs, perhaps a toast at a wedding, for instance, which is why Toastmasters is named what it is, Toastmasters, that might be appropriate, but certainly not for this class. So, some of the things you want to consider are your voice. You want to be conversational, and you want to vary your volume. You want to vary your speed. You want to vary your inflections. You want to make sure that you're not mumbling, you're enunciating clearly, and that you pause for effect or just to give the audience an opportunity to consider what you've just said. Now, there are lots of other variables that can be involved. There is something called proxemics, which is the use of space, which becomes particularly important in a face-to-face speech, how far the audience is from you, the seating arrangement, so forth and so on. That said, thinking about the space that you are going to be recording yourself in. You want to have a fairly neutral background. You don't want it to be too busy. You want to make sure that the lighting is appropriate for the speech that you're giving. Again, you want to think about the focus of the camera, which should be on your face, in part because of affect display, that we usually read facial expressions, even more than language, when we are reviewing speeches or absorbing speeches. So you definitely want to make sure that your face is very visible. You don't necessarily have to do a full body shot. You can see I don't do a full body shot, but you don't want to come off as being stiff, and you also don't want to come off as being fidgety, regardless of a half body or a full body shot. Gesturing is one of the ways that you can go about giving a more natural performance, and there's lots of different kinds of gestures that you can do. There are conventional gestures. These are gestures that are assigned meaning based on custom. For instance, let's say a okay sign, though I can tell you that sometimes those gestures are culturally based. The okay sign is an insult in some nations, so you've got to be very, very careful. Descriptive gestures, they're more universal. They describe size, shape, location, and indicators can express feelings, such as perhaps slamming your wrist on a table. And of course, you want to make eye contact when you're in a face to face situation. You want to have eye contact across your audience. I oftentimes recommend that you find a few friendly faces in the audience or 3 points in the room, one on the left side, one in the center, one on the right side, so that you can give at least the illusion of maintaining eye contact. For recording, obviously, you want to have eye contact with the camera. And one of the questions, actually, I was asked in the discussion forum was whether or not you could do more than one take. You can do as many takes as you'd like, but it needs to be a continuous take. You can't splice takes together. You can't be editing takes. It's a one-shot deal. Much like, again, the classes that I present to you. Of course, they won't be perfect. There is no such thing as the perfect speech, whether in a face-to-face situation or in a situation where you're giving an extemporaneous speech. What you want to be able to do is to try to find a way to connect with your audience. That's really the most important. So, speech number one, the autobiographical speech, where you have 5 minutes to tell your audience a little bit about yourself. This will be due on Thursday, which is the 30th. And I'm going to ask you to upload your speech to our Moodle folder, which I will be adding probably tomorrow to our Moodle site. I'm filming this actually on Monday, so probably on Tuesday I will add this. And what you want to do is look for speech number one folder in the general section. And you also want to send a copy of your speaking outline, and you do need to have a speaking outline. No giving speeches without an outline, to my email. And you should send me the outline that you actually use, not the outline you think you want to submit for a teacher evaluation. The whole point of the outline is that it's useful to you. So my email is ruiz, R-U-I-Z, at gcc.mass.edu. And you need to send the speaking outline for me to evaluate the speech. I will not be evaluating your speeches if you do not send me a speaking outline. So, how to upload your speech? Probably the easiest way to do it is to utilize YouTube, which is what I do when I record my classes. It's what IT recommends, and I've given some instructions below. This is in the second section, as you can see. So basically what you would do is you would embed the YouTube link in the Moodle folder that I'm going to be adding to our general section about speech number one. And it's always best to verify your account on YouTube before uploading to prevent any kind of errors uploading longer videos. Your first speech is just 5 minutes, but remember your last speech is 15 minutes. And certainly you want to do this ahead of time. You don't want to be in a situation where you are buffering and you miss the deadline because YouTube is slow with uploading your video. So the way to go about doing this is logging on to studio.youtube.com. Click the upload button on the dashboard. Drag and drop your file or click select files button to open a file picker window. On the details window, add a description as the video is being loaded. And then when you click next, you'll be prompted to identify if the video is intended for children. You can add elements. Most viewers or most users skip that. And then on the visibility tab, this is very important. You have to set for visibility, then save. So you want to make sure that you are uploading correctly and that your classmates can view this speech. That's the whole point of uploading the speech, so that I and your classmates can all view your speech next class. So, some speech points to remember. Greet your audience. It's one of the things that we saw in the sample speeches where the speakers didn't greet the audience. It could be as simple as hello and giving your name. This gives the audience an opportunity to settle in before you deliver your speech. Use a speaking outline, not a script, not something that you are reading word for word. Be conversational. Look into the center of the camera. Make sure your lighting and your audio is sufficient. Keep to the time frame indicated. You have 5 minutes. Certainly you can go over and under a little bit. So perhaps 30 seconds either way, something like that. Certainly you don't want to go over 5 minutes in a 5-minute speech. You want to think about balance. If you had an hour speech, perhaps going over 5 minutes would not necessarily be that bad. Use transitions to connect your points. Again, do not splice together multiple recordings. Your speech should be delivered in one take. Conclude smoothly. Make sure that you say farewell to your audience. It could be as simple as just saying thank you at the end. If you're using audio visuals, and you're not required to use audio visuals, but you might decide to do so with the first speech, which is fine, but you will definitely be required to do so with the second speech. More on that as the semester progresses. But you want to make sure any audio visual that you use, it enhances rather than detracts. And as I said, send a copy of your speaking outline to my email, which is ruiz, R-U-I-Z, @gcc.mass.edu. And again, I want to emphasize, double check to ensure your video is playable on Moodle for your classmates. So what's left for today is your quiz number 1, which you can see below. That's in the 4th section. That will basically replace the attendance question that we would normally have. And I'm asking you to return this quiz via PDF. What I suggest that you do is that you copy and paste the quiz into a word processing document, make it into a PDF, and send it to my email. Again, ruiz@gcc.mass.edu. By Thursday the 30th, in lieu of your discussion form attendance response. So these are 20 questions, mostly either short answer, true, false, occasionally multiple choice. It is open book, open notes, so you can review class videos and our notes. And I'm hopeful that the questions on this quiz will also be helpful to you as you are putting together your first speech. So I hope you're doing well. I'm doing well. And we will continue on next class. And that means next class is when you upload speech number 1. Take care. Bye-bye.